Hello, hello,
Hello. Hello.
hello.
Oh, well, howdy, y'all. Hello. 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 Welcome to another whiskey review with me, the Whiskey Novice. Hello. Hello, 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 hello indeed, and welcome to, but not a whiskey review. I suppose Jim's Monday Malt Samples is technically back. I hope you can all hear and see me clearly. It's good to be back with you in a little live stream. I have the chat up beside me here. Anybody who's seen the shape of what I do here, it's a bit higgledy-piggledy. So you will see me shooting this way regularly because that's where the chat is. And I want to try and get involved in the chat as much as possible. So I'm getting a little croaky already. So something to clear the throat. If you don't know me by now, you will know that I always like to have a pint of the black stuff on the go whenever I'm doing something live. Cheers, my friends. Thank you for being in for what is my 5th birthday celebration. Happy birthday to me. And that's technically what tonight's going to be about. It's going to be about looking back and maybe looking forward, but we'll see. First thing I want to do before I get into the chat, I always like to dip into the chat first, is pour myself a wee dram. I've got a lot of different whiskies out here for different reasons. So I'm going to very small pours tonight. No no Neil Laverty's. Anybody who knows Neil will know he likes to give himself a good healthy pour. So good on him. Good on him. And what I'm pouring first, as I say, I'll get into the chat in a moment. Here's what I'm pouring first. There's what I'm pouring first. Bushmills white label. And the thing about it is that not only is that Bushmills white label, that is the very first whiskey I reviewed. And not only is it, oh, yes, I know you reviewed Bushmills white label first time. That is the actual bottle. As far as I know, that's the actual bottle because I don't think I've renewed it. Now, this one, so there's a hint of has it went off. That is a very small pour because it's not that the bottle has went off. I don't think this bottle went off. I was chatting. I had a bit of a last minute dram or two with some of the Highland Battalion on what evening was it? Must have been Saturday evening. We hadn't planned anything. We hadn't planned. Every now and again, because we can't meet up just like that. Every now and again, we will just basically set up a sort of Zoom meeting as such, StreamYard as it is in this case, and we will. That's the way we'll do it. We'll just have a little drink together, little drinky poos. So that's what we're doing on Saturday evening. And as I was telling them, I pulled this bottle out of the cabinet. Now, cabinets. I have, and there are people I'm sure in this chat who will remember G-Plan furniture class. Love the stuff. We have some G-Plan furniture in our dining room that was donated to us from by an aunt of my wife's. And one of the corner cabinets is its classic G-Plan teak furniture. But this corner unit sat out in the damp for a while before it got introduced into our house again. And the smell or what happened inside the cabinet can only be described as, and the only way I know how to describe it is fusty. It's a term that we use. It's certainly an Ulster Scots term because I've heard a few of you Scottish folk out there use the word fusty before, and it's just dank wood, dank dark. I suppose your attic in your house, your loft, your roof space, when it gets a little damp, fusty is one of those smells. But this got a little too focused in that cabinet, and it's not that this bottle has went off, but it was certainly in that cabinet for too long. And I had a lot of my older Irish, I'm going to say older Irish whiskies, just bottles of blends, the cheap stuff were in there. And it's penetrated the bottle. It really has, because you can smell the fustiness off it. And that's exactly what it is. I can still smell the Bushmills is still there, all those apple notes. So the reason why I'm glad I had that ball is because I'm not convinced that bottles going off happens as easily as a lot of people say it does. Here is to my first review. Here's to you lot, and here's to the first 5 years. Let's launch it. Do you know, apart from that wee fusty note, and it's just a little fusty note, it still tastes perfectly fine. It's still typical sweet, saccharine sweet blended Bushmills. I'll go into the chat and then I'll pour myself something decent. Ugh, I wouldn't want to be drinking that all night. Hell's Wed in early doors, too early. Of course not, Hell. Of course not, although you were in at 7:10. I just noticed, which is quite early. Frank in at 7:30. He was in. Good to see you. And Frank, as I know Frank was working. He thought he might be working late. Alistair Gray, good to see you, Alistair. Hope I'll probably catch you in Glasgow again. I know I'll be seeing Frank in Glasgow. No, I'm not going. I've said it. I'll not be going in September this year, but I will be going over for the Glasgow Whiskey Festival as usual. So Alistair got the kids to bed and he's down. Scott Mathiasen. Scott, good to see you, sir. Ben, Whiskey with Molly. How are you, my friend? I was speaking to Ben as part of that little group the other night. Ghosts, and then he disappeared. Whiskey and Wine Trails, Tom in sunny Doon. Rain-soaked Doon. Of course, well, Doon, outside of Stirling. So he's been to Deanston, I imagine, or he's certainly going to Deanston because that's where Deanston is. I'll not go too deep into that, but I just know I stayed there a couple of years ago, and all that could really be described as a hellhole of a hotel. The Red Lion, it was called. Oh, it was dreadful. Anyway, what did I miss? Make a Dram Decision. It's a new name to me. I'm sure somebody else probably knows who that is. Sugar Kitty's in. Good to see you. Big pour. There he is. Neil Laverty. Jeff Whiskey. Jeff said cheers to the Big Five. Cheers, Jeff, because I know you've just had your premieres running there at the moment. I see a super chat in from Graham. I will get to that, Graham. Thank you, my friend. The Doc, Macallan, fine and rare. Doc, great to see you, buddy. Haven't seen you in ages. Hope you're keeping well. Willie Evans is in. Cheers, mate. Another Highland. Hopefully there'll be a few Highlands in tonight. As I said, big pours in. And there'll definitely be a few marshaled, I'm going to say, Highlands from last year, because those badges getting handed out left, right, and centre. And I'm starting to run out of them. Drew from Arizona's in. Drew, good to see you, buddy. You will get a mention later on. Drew was also in that little chat that we had a little drink the other night. Tim Powell's is a new name to me, but maybe I should know you already. Tim, good to see you in. Let's see, Ronan McConnell. Why do I feel like I should know? Ronan McConnell. I feel guilty, Ronan, because I know you. I do know you. Got his hands on a Springbank 18 as per your recommendation. Good stuff. Yes, so I was maybe speaking to him. Held off in the opening the 15 and cast strength. It's been the toughest year looking at them. I know what it's like. Jimmy Legs in. Jimmy, good to see you, sir. Let me see. It's actually, it's been a while since I've done this, and I do miss it, but I'll chat a bit further about that. Greg's Whiskey Guy. Greg, I didn't think you were going to be in. So there you go. Well, there you are, Greg. It was Greg got his days mixed up because he's meeting somebody we know, but I'll not name any names in case it's a secret. So Ronan's opening them now in November for his 40th. So there you go. Cheers, Ronan, and have a great 40th in November. Wonder what date in November, because I celebrate in November as well. Did I miss? North Coast Tony's in. Good to see you, Tony. There's a good crowd, and it's great to see you all in. Thank you. There's more chat going on here than I thought. Jimmy Legg says he could only afford the H plan. Donner Pass Tim is in. Tim, good to see you. Multi Mission is in. Menno, how are you, my friend? Drew says so he's imagining that fusty pudding wouldn't be a good thing. Not in the fusty that I was mentioning, no. Certainly not. There's definitely, I missed an awful lot of chat, so I don't want to, I'm scared to scroll too fast here. Yes, that was that super chat from Graham. Graham, cheers, my friend. Here's to many more live streams, lad. It's launching on happy 5th birthday. Graham, very much appreciate it, my friend. Another Highland. Anybody who doesn't know what the Highlands are, we will talk about them after. Big Pour says, does it taste like Bushmills? Yes. It does definitely taste like Bushmills. Jimmy Legg says, did he hear that it was my birthday? It's the channel's birthday. The channel's birthday. Whiskey Lover Society. Kurt is in. Good to see you, buddy. Andy Cross. Andy, how are you, my friend? Andy, probably see you in Glasgow again, I hope. Macallan Fine and Rare, won't let it go. I still have some balls for you. Should I start drinking them? Do you know what, Doc? No, don't. It will happen. It will happen. I will get there. I will definitely make it there someday. Drew from AZ. Drew, that is incredibly generous. Congrats on a great 5 years, buddy. Drew, for the super chat and for lots of other things, which we will get to. Cheers, my friend. So, Freddie Moses, cheers to 5 years. That's another new name to me. This is brilliant. Miguel Gomez Fernandez, it's good to see you, buddy. Congrats on the 5. It couldn't be tonight, so I see the replay. No, not at all, man. Appreciate that. Whiskey Pal Jason's in. Good to see you. Cheers, mate. Another Highland, another recent Highland, Nigel Taylor. Another Highland and father, recent father. Richard Ignew's in from Canada. Richard, how are you, buddy? It's my good old friend, Richard. We will see Richard next year. All being well, Peter White is in. So there you go. That's me down to the bottom. So let's get this finished off. I'm actually quite glad that bottle didn't go off that much in that, even that little fustiness. Sorry. Get the fan on there because hopefully you won't hear that fan blowing. But it's warmer in here than I thought. Vincent McPeak is in. Vincent McPeak. I know that name from. Yeah, that bottle didn't go off as much as I thought it had. However, I'd sort of planned on different glasses. But that glass isn't too bad yet. That wasn't as fusty as I thought it was going to be. I have got a couple of glasses on the go there. So the other thing I was going to say to you was, well, there's going a bit blurry again, but don't worry about that. Don't worry. If it goes a bit blurry, that's just because it does that. So I just seen Helen saying any other Highlands going to the Leg Fest. I think Ryan's going. Ryan's not in tonight because he's away at the moment. But Helen, I think that Ryan will be there. What was I saying? Yes, I was going to go back to, yes, it will go a little blurry. That's not you, it's me. I'll figure itself out. Live streams. I wanted to say about live streams before I go backward. I will go back and well, here, I have to pour myself something else, don't I? Here's what I'll pour myself. I fancy a wee bourbon. So this was a bottle that I brought out. The Willet, it's like the Pot Still Reserve, isn't it? They call it or something like that. And this was a gift from my good friend Bud Jenkins up in the Pacific Northwest of America there. And I've had this bottle for a few years now that Bud gave me, and I've never actually broken the seal on it. In that I've drank it, but I've just never broken this seal because look, It peels back without breaking. Now, what difference does that make, says you? None whatsoever, but I just don't want to break the seal on it because I like it. Ooh. And I just fancy a wee bourbon to start me off. I don't know whether I have any other bourbons out there poured or anything for pouring. No, I don't think so. But there you go. Perfectly sealed again. No one need ever know. I've said it many times in the past. I don't care what a bottle looks like. However, when the bottle looks like that, I think it's something a bit special. Bud, if I know you're maybe not in at the moment, but if you're watching this in the replay or whatever, you've always been a good friend to me, and that was always very much appreciated, as all of you have, of course. Anyway, right, what was I going to tell you? Live streams. Haven't done a live stream in a while, just in case any of you were wondering where the hell I was. Well, you know that I'm still reviewing every week, but I was telling my patrons this a couple of weeks ago. I'd done a little thing for them that when I was a musician, I've probably told you this before. If I have, I'm just repeating myself, but I'm going to do it anyway. When I was a full-time musician, I grew to hate music. It was my job, and it wasn't a job that I necessarily loved that much. I loved music prior to becoming a full-time musician. I loved going to gigs. I loved listening to music, etc., etc. And then I became a full-time musician as a gigging musician working in the pubs and clubs, and I grew to hate it. I absolutely despised it with a passion, and as such grew to fall out with music as well, and almost hate music. So I was slightly scared that the whiskey. So just over 2 years ago, I started working in the whiskey shop, and when I did so, I took this fear that because whiskey was my passion and I enjoyed whiskey so much, that I may fall out of love with whiskey as well. And it did sort of start to creep in a bit. And when it started to creep in, I felt like as if I needed to do something to pull back a bit. And the easiest thing to pull back from was doing live streams. It just, it was something that I enjoyed doing, but not as much as reviewing. And certainly I don't hate my job, but I didn't want to get to the point where I did hate my job. So I just decided to pull back from something. And that thing that I pulled back from at the time was doing live streams. That was the last live stream, Jim's Monday Malt Samples live stream I did was in January of this year. It's not to say that they're over. I've still already got one in here for Christmas this year, do a wee special thing with the Highlands as I do every year. And because I look forward to that, enjoy it. It's a bit of crack and I really get joy out of that. But just to do it even on a monthly basis, it was driving me a bit demented. I genuinely do not know how. And Roy's the one that I generally look to, Roy Duff. I don't know how he does it every week. I really don't. I've said it before. How he even comes up with new ideas to run on a weekly basis is beyond me. Fair play to him. So I just decided to pull back from that. Pardon me. Anyway, so there's a little bourbon. Haven't had that in a long time. Eric Waite's whiskey study. Eric Waite whiskey studies in. Good to see you, Eric. When a love becomes a labor, you can lose your passion for it. Exactly, Eric. You really can, and that's what happened to me. That is exactly what happened. Tobias is in. How are you, sir? So Richard and you says bourbony. It is bourbony. It is quite bourbony. You know that Willet bourbon is nice. There's nicer bourbons out there. But it is still nice. Hurt's saying it's very difficult to keep on going, putting heart and soul in a channel. It really is. There's an awful lot of people in here who know that. There's an awful lot of YouTubers in here, and that's something that I want to do. That's a perfect segue there, Kurt. Thank you for that, because I'm going to say 5 years ago, the 29th of August, 2019, and you know there is there's the long lost video that I don't know whether I've ever told you about, but I'll tell you about it now for the crack. Before I uploaded my first video, there's a good chance actually it was uploaded and then taken down again. I recorded a video, and it was me standing here in the kitchen at Shay's Ingram, Shay's Novice, and I was sort of introducing myself. I don't think I'd actually gone for a name. It was just this video that I was going to do reviews, and this was the build up to it. And I remember at one point, that certainly in this video, I was flying around the house on a miniature quad, which belonged to my children, quad motorcycle, drinking whiskey. And this was all going to be part of the this was going to be all part of this video, and even at the introduction, I was always a bit concerned about the accent. I was always a bit concerned that nobody would understand what I was talking about. I still get a bit concerned sometimes that nobody knows what I'm talking about. But hell, 5 years in, I'm not going to change that now. The Whiskey Friend, congrats, Jim. Well done, fella. Cheers, Alan. Very much appreciate it, mate. Good to see you. So yes, I'd done this video, and it was all like, "Hi, I'm Jim, the whiskey novice." You sort of cracked me. I was scared that people wouldn't know what I was talking about. So I definitely pulled it down again. That one didn't stay. Macallan Fine Rare says it was August 2019. The live stream says text says September. That was does it? Well, there you are. I must have. Obviously I've titled it wrong. Apologies. It was August the 29th, 2019 was my first review. So the first video, as I said, it was taken down. It doesn't exist anymore. As a matter of fact, I don't even think I kept copies of it or anything. And the other thing about it was, Instagram seemed to be a bigger thing even then. So there was an awful lot of people doing Instagram videos, Instagram lives and stuff like that. And I hadn't really intended to do, I think at the time I wasn't intending doing lives, but we did it anyway. Because everybody else was doing it. But the reviewing thing 5 years ago, did I think I was going to be doing it 5 years from then? Don't know. I honestly do not know. I don't think I'd ever thought about it then. I just thought I'm going to start reviewing, because I was sort of used to being in the public eye. This is the bit that always gets me. I always sound a bit poncy whenever I start saying that, but I was sort of in the public eye anyway with the music and all. I was never shy of being in front of a camera or anything like that. And I always had opinions. I was always a bit opinionated, I suppose is the best way to put it. And I felt like as if I had to do it. I felt like as if I had to voice my opinion somehow on whiskey. And let me tell you, I didn't know an awful lot about it. And to the extent of reviewing purposes. So when I watch other reviewers now, and I mean, there's guys in this chat here who I still hold in very, very high regard, who have been reviewing for longer or as long as me, and some of them not even as long as me, but maybe we're doing it in the background, I don't know. So to them, to all of you, I say cheers. And it was, I said it before, it was Vin PF was the first one that I ever seen reviewing a whiskey, and no nonsense whiskey. And it just, it didn't dawn on me. I found this strange, that that people reviewed whiskey. I couldn't get my head around it. And then I thought about it and thought, well, hell, people review everything else. Why not whiskey? And I very quickly picked up on Ralphie, Roy, Alan, the whiskey friend, the whiskey tribe boys. So it was all of a sudden, all of these whiskey tubers were there, and I was going, oh, this is fantastic. And I was watching everything. Now, nothing happens. I wasn't even, I found myself at that time, this is only 5 years ago. Ireland, or certainly Northern Ireland, seemed a bit of a lonely place. What happened? COVID. That's what happened. And we all know it. And we all know that COVID made an awful lot of whiskey lovers out there. And it's only now that we're recovering from that. But I think an awful lot of us found ourselves in that same situation where we were watching YouTubers then. So it didn't do my stock any harm. Didn't do any of our stock any harm. I always find it quite amazing. And for dear sake, don't take this to the point where you just all leave. But I always find it quite amazing that you can have thousands and thousands and thousands, in some cases, tens of thousands of subscribers. So let's just look at, say, the Whiskey Tribe or Scott's Test Dummies or Ralphie or one of these, with multiple thousands of subscribers, and yet when they do a live stream, a couple of hundred people are watching, or they do a review and okay, 3,000 people like it. What happened to the rest of the thousands who subscribe to your channel? So it's one of those things that I know an awful lot of people take those. I don't have the biggest channel, put it like that. I said channel. Nobody take that video and insert what word that they want there. I don't have the largest YouTube channel, but I know how to use it well. It was never about that, and it still isn't. So 5 years ago, did I envision me having this channel still operating in 5 years? Probably not, in fairness. Do I still envision me going 5 years from now? I do, actually. I do hope so, because I bloody enjoy it. I do still enjoy it. And every now and again, this was another thing about the live streams, about having to pull back on the live streams, because I found myself trying to come up with ideas for another live stream every time. And I wasn't even doing them that often. And while I was doing that, I was then struggling to come up with ideas as to what to review and what to say that would be different in a review. So there. Hurt is saying I'm nailing it on the head. So there you go. He's, probably going through exactly the same. And it's very, as I say, it's one of those things that we all think it's a great idea. And then it's a great idea at the time. You build something and then you go, oh, what am I going to do now? Jimmy says he supports 3 people, those being Ralphie, Duffy, and a novice. Jimmy, it's always very much appreciated. Look, as I said, I can't say enough to all of you that when you're in here, the support means the world, the absolute world to me. And I know how many other, not just YouTubers, but just, Menno's in there, a blogger. There's other bloggers in here, I know. I'm going to have another little, so that was a little gift from Bud. I'm sneaking in some things here tonight. And this one was a gift from, I think it was Tony, and the North Coast Drummer. That is what you're calling yourself these days, isn't it, Tony? That's poor form for me. One of my North Coast Drummers, one of my closest friends, I would suggest. And there was me almost forgetting what he calls himself. this, I think it was Tony, last year, I held a little event here for the Highland Battalion, and we will get to the Highland Battalion after. And Tony, Whiskey with Malt, says 10 coats, question mark. Yes, 10 coats. So the problem was that lots of people were bringing bottles to this event that I held out of the Highland Battalion that were there, even though I asked them not to. Pardon me. And this little bottle showed up. Now, it wasn't sealed. So somebody said earlier on about I think it was Alistair Gray said earlier on about he does the same with his, he reseals the lid, peels back the seal, opens the lid and puts it back on his Springbank hand fills. Well, this is a little Springbank hand fill. Sorry, the lighting over there is very, very bright tonight. I'm trying to shade that in such a way. There you go. It's a little 20 cl handful. It is a little handful. And it's a little handful. And I'm just going to pour a little dram of it because I do like Springbank. But just sneak a wee bit in there for now. And I have a reminder, and I was gonna do this anyway, but I'll do it now. That lots of things have happened in the last 5 years. And something that happened earlier this year, and Richard Agnew has reminded me, Jim, yours and Big Al's channel, where our wee touch of home, really appreciate it. So Richard, anybody who doesn't know Richard Agnew, he's an expat from Northern Ireland, living in Canada. But this is a good time to do it. This is for Alan. This is for our big mate Alan McVeigh, who passed away earlier this year. Because I know an awful lot of us got a lot of joy out of his channel as well. So, you know, a lot has happened, but I'll raise a glass to Alan now. Oh, baby. Oh, that's fantastic. Sometimes when you step away from Springbank for a while, you forget how good it is. This was bottled on the 5th of September. So we're not a million miles off this being bottled a year ago. So this was last year, 52.1%. Yeah, that's a cracker. Nice to see so many of you raising a glass to Al. It's, you know, the sad thing is they come and go. And funny, I was just looking. Every now and again, I'm say guilty of it. I do it as well. Subscribe to other YouTubers, and you become. So this is what I was saying earlier on. You become one of those people who subscribes to a thing. They don't release any, you know, said person maybe doesn't release, and I know of a few whiskey ones who just disappeared. So they don't release any anything. So you sort of, I don't know, every now and again I look who I'm subscribing to, and then there's some of them and I discover and I go, well, they haven't done anything forever. And I've watched everything that they did, and they seem to have gone, they seem to have quit. So I just maybe cancel the subscription. But I was just flicking through earlier on, and I was looking earlier on. Recently I was doing that, and there's Big Al's channel. Still in there, still subscribed, and still a good following, which is nice to see. So yeah, that one's for Al. A few other people in. John McAllister, Whiskey Liberation Front. Lee J's made it in. Another Highland. So it's good to see a few people in. I think I maybe missed Richard Weber earlier on as well. I think he was maybe in. So if I did, Richard, sorry. Another man. So this year's Glasgow Whiskey Festival is looking pretty busy. An awful lot of Highlands going. I keep talking about the Highlands, so we'll get in there now. We'll do this now. Anybody that's wondering what I'm talking about, most of you, I'm sure, know what I'm talking about. Honest to a Malt. That's a new name to me. Honest to a Malt. Yet again, I'm sure I probably know who it is. Setting up a pod recording, but wanted to say hello. Well, thank you and hello. Yeah, the Highland Battalion. So I'll skip back and forward here tonight because there's stuff that's happened over the 5 years that I've probably forgotten about, and I want to go back. And the Highland Battalion came out of Big Pour, really. And yet again, any of you who know the Highland Battalion, Big Pour has sort of come about. And the thing is, the bugger now keeps changing. So he's 1 minute he's the occasional drama, or the Big Pour, and et cetera, et cetera. It's Neil Laverty. And Neil and I were having a drink. It's probably about 3 years ago now. We do this try to do this sort of once a year anyway. Well, there you are. Sorry, Lee J. Apologies, Lee J says, honest to Malt, great podcast channel with Mike and Duncan. That's something that I do apologize, guys, because I do not listen to podcasts. It's just something I don't do. I just don't. Eric, very generous of you, sir. Thank you. And hopes to visit Ireland in 2025. Eric, if you do, promise me, please, that you will make it north. There's a lot of people coming to Ireland in 2025 because the Open Golf Championship is in July 25, and there's going to be one heck of a gathering, I hope. And I'll do that, and I'll tell you about that now, because if I don't, I'll forget. I'm hoping, well, I know for a fact that because it's the Open Championship Golf, Michael Henry, Loch Lomond, sponsor it. Michael has already told me he should be over for a couple of weeks. He's coming. Richard and you, hopefully, coming over. It's just people making it to Ireland for maybe their first time, or maybe, So I'm hoping to get an almighty gathering together. Really, really hoping, if I can. I don't know where it'll be, but we'll get something organised. I really do. And I mean, even if at any time, any of you are coming to Ireland, please let us know. And we'll try and give you the warmest of welcomes. So yes, Big Pour. Oh, Tim Hoyster's in. Tim, cheers, my friend. Yes, Big Pour. Neil said to me a few years ago, we should do. So this is a time whenever, and I'm looking for it, whenever challenge coins were very much still a thing, and as much as challenge coins haven't went away, but they don't seem to be the big thing they used to be, that we always had to have our challenge coins, etc., etc. So Neil had said about we should do a challenge coin for, and we'll call ourselves the Occasional Drammers. And he had suggested this name, the Occasional Drammers, and it was fine. That's what we were. And I had designed this little logo and all, and we were going to do it. And I, as per usual, started to procrastinate, sit in my hands, and it was my fault. It just didn't make it off the ground. So anyway, I can't even remember. I think basically when we got together a time or two, we decided to start this. Pardon me. It was just a WhatsApp group, and originally the WhatsApp group was the Occasional Drammers, and then I do not know how it even happened, but it became, well, it was my doing. I must admit, it was my doing, but I think somebody kept calling us the Highlands, just this bunch of Highlands. So a Highland, and if any of you don't know what a Highland is, a Highland's basically considered the dictionary, Webster's dictionary would consider us a Highland as being a sort of ruffian, somebody who, but a Highland here in Northern Ireland is a sort of colloquialism. It's a name that, I mean, even our so multi-mission men will say a scoundrel. Yeah, scoundrel's actually good. But even our parents, I mean, our mothers here in Northern Ireland, oh, you're a dirty Highland. Look at the state of that dirty Highland, and it was just a word that got dropped in. It was just something. All them fellas are dirty Highland. Right. If you've understood that, well done. So we became just this word Highland kept coming up, and just the Highland Battalion. started playing over and over and over again. So the WhatsApp group became the Highland Battalion, and I always feel bad. I sort of felt bad. I sort of did that, Neil, big poor. But yeah, we're there now. So the Highland Battalion based, and what the Highland, all the Highland Battalion was a WhatsApp group based around Glasgow Whiskey Festival, because it was easier for us all. It was for the first year that there was a few of us going. It was easier. It was the easiest way for us all to stay in contact. That if one said anything, we all saw it, so we knew what was going on, because we were all going to the Glasgow Whiskey Festival together. And I mean, I'm not just talking about us guys from here. I'm talking about Drew was coming over that year from Arizona. Lee J was coming up from England, etc., etc. There was, there was certainly plans that were, so this smaller group, and then that group just grew. I think there's about 12 of us in there now, and yet again, Al does not get dropped out of the Highland Battalion. Big Al's very much wherever he is, still a Highland. And the thing was then that last September, so I get these badges made up. I don't actually have one sitting in front of me. I got these little badges made up, the Highland Battalion. So last September and November of last year, anybody that I met, I was basically, they became Highland Marshals, basically. And that's what the Highland Battalion is. So there's people who are desperate to become, how do I get into the Highland Battalion? And believe it or not, there are, and it means nothing, really. It doesn't mean anything to be a Highland, really. But it's nice. It's nice to be one of them too. It's a friendship group. That's what it is. We're friends. Anyway, it's weird because that gets me back. That links me back to something I was saying earlier on. That Northern Ireland was a bit of a lonely place, I thought at the time. For Petehead said, what? Because Petehead, very much a Highland, even though he's not in the group, but very much a Highland. I felt a bit, Northern Ireland felt like a lonely place where whiskey was, because I didn't know there was that many. I didn't know there was people here. I had already sort of hooked up with a couple of guys, Causeway Phil. Phil, if you're ever watching this, good luck. Phil's just moved to America. I had picked up with Phil. People are just putting their badges on. God bless you all. Highlands, all of us. So I I'd already hooked up with Phil, Graham McNeil. Anybody who knows Graham on Instagram, check out if you see it. Graham and Nigel, who's in here, and Richard, who I think's maybe still in here, do a live stream on Instagram once a month. Worth checking out. So it's yeah, I picked up a couple of people. Nigel was actually one of the first guys that him and I had sort of picked up or hooked up at a Belfast Whiskey Week thing. But I didn't realise, I thought there was very few people in the whiskey in Northern Ireland. And I think the thing about it is, at the time, and Tony North Coast Drummer in here would tell you the same himself, that he wasn't really into whiskey. Around the COVID time, an awful lot of people came out of, a lot of whiskey people come out of the woodwork. And as I say, the good thing about it is, I'm convinced that those who were determined stayed. Those who were determined stayed. There was an awful lot of people, I think, around that time get into whiskey, and a lot of them disappeared again. I actually I do miss some people who were around at that time. There are people in here, Greg's Whiskey Guide will remember Johnny, Spirits people. And you'll still see me wearing Johnny's hat sometimes. You still see me wearing Johnny's t-shirt sometimes. I thought Johnny was brilliant. He was pretty much on Instagram. It was all about Instagram. But he was very, very, I mean, he went and done as far as he was moving up through the WSETs and stuff like that. Very dedicated to the spirit world. Alcohol, obviously, and he just disappeared. So Ben's saying, based on the WhatsApp chat, a lot of us still aren't into whiskey. Yes, I would agree with that. Greg's Whiskey Guys also said about Anthony and Nicky. I forgot about that as well. New Dram Drinker, although at least Anthony and Nicky hung around, I believe, because I'm not really into it, but I believe they're still now. Hold on now. Hell's Wed's actually saying CEOs are missed. So maybe they're not. I thought they were still doing some stuff, as in, what do you call that other thing? I don't use it because somebody will remind me. It's one of the other social medias. Damn, I can't remember. Anyway. Oh, that Springbank's good. Do you know what? I slid out there very quickly because I've forgotten stuff. Discord. Thanks, Menno. Yeah, the CEO's Discord still exists. There you go. All right, wait, it says grinder. Nope. I didn't realize how cheesy that was sometimes. There's a cheesiness in that. Fantastic. However, I'm going to say the nose is actually better. The nose is better than the palate. The palate's good, but the nose is better. The nose is better. I'll get myself something else poured. I'm going to pour myself a celebration whiskey. Why not? What better celebration whiskey than Macallan, eh? I just anybody who wishes to know my views on this bottle, you're going to have to wait a week or two, but I will be reviewing it soon. There's me just first pop and pour there, Nigel. Little Macallan to celebrate with. You can't celebrate unless you're celebrating with the best whiskey in the world. That's what it says, you heathen. I bought this to review it. It's pretty much the last 12-year-old. It's not the last 12-year-old single malt, but I felt I should review a 12-year-old Macallan. And I broke. Oh, you've no idea, people. It broke my heart to have to pay for that. Absolutely broken. But had to do it. Anyway, it says he started the whiskey journey with the Macallan 12. Get you. That's a big place to start with. It's, do you know, I'm not going to sit here and start reviewing it, but I'm going to, pardon me, it's the gassy Guinness. It's not the dollar pass. Tim's asking, is that the sherry cask? It is. Doc says when Macallan 12-year-old sherry was $39.99, it was good. And that cost me the best part of £80. And I'm going to polish it off quickly. But it's a celebration, people. It's a celebration. I felt like as if you can't celebrate it unless you have Macallan. Is that right? Yeah, right. I'll rinse that glass. Do you know, it's not as bad as I remember. Do you know what? It's not the first time I've had that ball. It's not the first time I've tried it. I will, when I review it, I will air my frustrations. I'll send Dalmore next. No, Dalmore is reserved for my father-in-law, who I'll send the Macallan might struggle after that spring. Look, Macallan's going to struggle after everything almost, isn't it? As I said, I'll air my frustrations. Dalmore 12-year-old is reserved for my father-in-law who likes it. And I put, if I put that much, that's water at the minute. But if I pour that much Dalmore into a glass, he'll fill that with water. It's because that's the way he drinks water or whiskey. So I'm not gonna, he gets my average stuff. I'm gonna have a wee Irish whiskey. And it could only be one. Keep going blurry again. It could only be one. If we're celebrating, it had to be the Jones Lane. It had to be the Parish Jones Lane. This is on a daily basis. This is the whiskey that I tell people, and I use the term bang for buck, my favorite Irish whiskey. And bang for buck, it is my favorite Irish whiskey. And that's my little segue into working in the whiskey industry. Jimmy Legg has just very, very kindly given me a waste to pour an Irish whiskey and then very kindly given me a little donation to the Ball Fund and a happy birthday. Happy birthday to the channel. Please don't spend this on Macallan. Jimmy, thank you, sir. Do you know what? I might actually pour. Always have to watch the watch because people might be saying stuff. The Highland Battalion always talking in the background. That was a very small pour of the Jones Lane, so I'm going to pour a little more. Jones Lane still, as I said, on a daily basis, I tell people that Jones Lane's my favourite whiskey. Irish whiskey. Bang for buck. It's £65 a ball, which is right on the top of what I like to pay for a 12-year-old whiskey. It's right at the very top edge, £65. It's a pot still whiskey, and I'm not going to sit here and start and rhyme off what my views on whiskey. I know it's not the best Irish whiskey. There are better whiskies, but bang for buck, in my opinion, it's the best on the market. The Redbreast 27, I think, is phenomenal. But it's around the £500 mark a bottle, and I won't pay that. No way. There's no whiskey worth that in the world, in my opinion. I will tell you that now. I recently. Right, there's a couple of things said in the chat before we go back to that. Greg's Whiskey Guide, House the Pars Rye, never tasted it, not ever seen it. Do you know, actually, the Pars Rye, I think, is a bloody good rye, Greg. I really do. Tobias, and this is a really good question. Next to the cast strength version, how do they rank? The Jones Lane, I'll take the original 46%. To me, I still sort of think that there's, if it was balled at 40, if it was balled at 40, and Redbreast 12-year-old's a good example. Redbreast 12-year-old, 40%. It's all right, but it needs something. Cask strength, amazing, brilliant, love it. This 46%, it was good already. 46% non-chill filtered, probably natural color. It was already ticking all the right boxes. Even though I was probably one of those people putting the hand up and jumping about and saying, give us a cast strength version. I don't think we actually needed it. And it's all right. The cast strength version is nothing wrong with it. But I think it was all right at 46%. Didn't need an actual cast strength version of it. What's your thoughts on Waterford whiskey? Seems to have gone a bit quiet, Al. Yeah. They have gone very quiet. Funny, somebody was talking about them the other day, and I was slightly concerned about where they've gone. It's bizarre. Don't know. Tim, this is an interesting question. Where I live, Total Wine still has old stock of the Pogue Castle 14 for $54 US. That's brilliant. That is fantastic, buddy. Once that's gone, Pars Jones Lane will do you know what the Pogue Castle 14 is? It's a Bushmills 14. Napogue Castle is owned by the Napogue Castle brand is owned by Castle Brands, the Napogue Castle name, but Middleton lay claim to the production of it. Middleton Distillery. And this is the same Middleton Distillery who do not produce malt whiskey. So lorry loads of grain whiskey head up the road from the very bottom of Ireland to the very top of Ireland, full of grain whiskey for Bushmills blends to the Bushmills distillery, and Bushmills fill those same lorries full of malt. I imagine in my head this is the way it works, but it's probably not. And they take all the malt whiskey back down to Waterford, where they cask it for Napogue Castle. So that's what Napogue Castle is. But it's bloody good. It really is. Ben's saying, yeah, all Waterford stock heavily, reduced online now. They really Waterford dropped the ball early on, is the way I look at it. Doc saying, do you see deep discounts on whiskey where you are? We have some hefty cases here. Talisker Wilder Seas for €27. That's a brilliant price. That I really like that Wilder Seas. It's the last Talisker. As a matter of fact, there's a bottle of it just over my shoulder. I was very fond of it there. It was the last Talisker I've had that I thought was actually good. €27 is fantastic. We see it, Doc, on Amazon, because we can buy whiskey on Amazon here. That's where we're picking those bottles up. And I know an awful lot of people dig their heels in about it and won't do it. I'm not buying on Amazon. Honestly, I don't care. If it's the right price, I don't care if Jeff Bezos gets my money. I pay it. Sorry, I know I'm straying off here, but I'm enjoying what's been said in the chat. Tim Hoyster's asked a good question. Any struggling distilleries in Ireland like the first cracks we're seeing in other places? I almost don't like to say too much because I don't know who knows what and what's rumor and what's truth. I know, or I certainly heard that Bushmills' new distillery, the Causeway Distillery, hasn't been operating pretty much any more than a day a week. But there's a very good reason for that. They don't have the storage. They're building new storage as well, so that's part of why that's happening. So I don't like to speak out of school too much. We all know McNaira dropped out there. We all read that Penderyn and Wales closed one of the distilleries, or certainly dropped one of the distilleries out. But I've heard rumors in Ireland, but they're no more than that. And I wouldn't like to speak out of school as such and say, that, because I've heard of other people actually voicing these rumors and then getting pulled up by the distillery owners for saying things about them. So I know I'm generally quite outspoken about these things, but in this case, I'll I probably did pour too much of that. Yes, Waterford, good idea, as Donner Past Tim's saying here, and it is. I think it's a good idea as well, but sometimes ideas just don't work. I would hate to think that, and I know that we all have our views on Mark Rainier. I would hate to think that Waterford would disappear. Mark's not stupid. We know that. The single farm stuff is nothing more than a good idea, in my opinion. I've said it many times in the past, and I think Tim's maybe mentioned it here. So he's even saying, bourbon cask only single farm stuff. Yeah, maybe I would go one step further and say, let us try your new make spirit from the different farms. And even at that, they were probably using different yeast strains. So, there was too many things happened between point A and point F, shall we say, with Waterford. All those little bits that happen in between there was too many different variants. That I could not believe it whenever I ran. I mean, they make such a big point out of scanning that QR code in their box, and it'll tell you, as I always describe it, you know, it'll almost tell you what the farmer's wife had for breakfast. If you change your maturation makeup on every bottle, which they did, they use 4 different styles of cask: ex-bourbon, French red, vin de natural, and some virgin oak, I think they use. And they messed about with the maturation for every single farm bottling. If you're going to do that, we're never going to taste the difference in the barley. I know the scientists, Mark Rayner, came out about it and said that the science has told us, we've had very special science, it's all very technical, and they've told us that you can taste the difference between the barleys. I don't doubt that for a second. If they've told them that, and we all know that Mark Rayner comes from wine stock somewhere, and the terroir works in grapes, they have proved this in the past. Okay, you cannot mix up your maturation and expect us to believe that it's that's we're tasting. So their cuvées, I've tasted quite a few of their cuvées, and they work very, very well. So their in-house blends are good when they get it right. But I don't know. I just, you know, I'll send the old Guinness brewery. They bought the old Guinness brewery down. And the thing about it is, if you ever get the opportunity to tour Waterford, it's brilliant. It is class. I loved it. Anyway, the fact that they don't operate a mash tun, it's a mash filter they use and all, it's all just very, it's a modern, the old Guinness brewery is still there, really, but the modern distillery sort of very casually slipped in there as well. So it's I really like it. I'm sure I strayed way away from why. Well, I'll stray back because I'll finish this whiskey and I'll stray back. Because Graham, Whiskey Works Graham, mentioned something a while ago. Here's what I'm going to do. I'll pour some water in that glass. I've got another glass on the go here. See, yet again, haven't done a live stream in ages. Apart from I did the round table one with Finn and Ralphie. But when I haven't done one in ages, really enjoy it whenever I come back. What else changed in the last 5 years? And Graham, Whiskey Works Graham, mentioned something a while ago. And that's the other thing. It's not only that we're all friends here, and we are. Some of us then stray out and make a business out of it. Whiskey Works Graham. And any of you check out his prints or, you know, on Instagram, stuff like that there. He's paying me to do that. About just over 2 years ago, I started working in, and I say I'm working in the whiskey industry. I'm working in a whiskey shop. But I suppose technically some of us could look at that and say that I'm working within the whiskey industry. And I work for these guys. And there we go, the friend at hand. And this is, Graham was talking about this a minute ago. And I thought, I can't not mention this. This isn't me selling up. This isn't me trying to promote anything here at all. This is just me. I'm giving a nod to something else that's happened in the last 5 years, pretty much. So, sorry, I'm reading the bit. This is this one in particular is the friend I hand you on a gold. I'm not going to go into the bloody story because I tell it every day and I'm sick of it. That's rubies there. It's marketing. But this is in this one, 12-year-old. This is actually a 12-year-old Bushmills with a sherry cask finish. I will just explain this. All friend at hand. Uncle Larry, greetings from Pittsburgh area, USA. Hello, Uncle Larry, you're a new name to me. Welcome, my friend. And Wraith, I'm going to say. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Congrats to the 5 year. Thank you very much. All friend at hand whiskey in on our own range. Those labels that say friend at hand are all Bushmills. They're all from what I call the Diageo fire sale. So in 2016, Diageo shipped Bushmills to Proximo for 50% of the Don Julio tequila brand. But before they did, they sold off a lot of stock in barrel. And it was Kieran Mulgrew, the quiet man in the Maiden City, Stroke City, not going to upset anybody here, who bought that stock. And then anybody was approaching him for that stock. So that's what ours is. It's Bushmills stock. And but the thing about it is, it's fantastic. It's really good stuff. It's a Bushmill. Does it smell like Bushmills? Yes. Does it taste like Bushmills? Yes, but it's bottled at 46%. It's non-chill filtered. There's no colour added to it. So it's Bushmills. Oh, man. Oh, I've forgotten how good that was. Sorry. It's right in the back of the palate with that stuff whenever it's good. Sandy McDonald. Sandy, good to see you, sir. Sandy, it's Sandy, you and I have probably met me 3 times, but every time it's just been an absolute pleasure. Well done sticking it out for 5 years. Any good Glendalough to speak about? He's asking. Personally, I haven't had an awful lot of experience with Glendalough, but apparently, and the problem is that it's a hard one to get now, apparently the 13-year-old Mizunara was amazing. Now, the thing is that Glendalough are still, most of what you will get from Glendalough is still sourced, but it was sourced from Cooley for a long time, so it was really good stuff. I heard rumours recently that a lot of their source stuff is now West Cork, but that 13-year-old Mizunara was supposed to be amazing. There's a 7-year-old Mizunara which is still about, but I just haven't had an awful lot of experience with them because yet again there were another sourced whiskey. I just couldn't really be bothered with them. But no, that Bushmills, when Bushmills is done right, it's incredible. I've never reviewed anything never reviewed anything in the friend at hand range, and if I was going to review any, it was going to be this one. But it was because it's just so good. Richard Agnew is just remembering that during the gold. Cheers, Mucker. Lesson, cheers, Richard. Very much appreciated, mate. Whenever Richard was here a couple of years back, we had Girona Gold in the Heart Bar. And Tim Hoyster, Tim, what jam has been your favourite surprise discovery over the past 5 years? Tim, I'm going to put a pin in that question because I will get back to it. I probably was going to get there anyway. I was probably going to get there, Tim. So if I don't answer it by the end of this live stream, please remind me. Please remind me, because it should be something that I want to hit on. Richard Agnew, remembering that Girona Gold. Here's the thing, Richard. The Girona Gold that you had was the old 13-year-old. It's actually better at 12 years old. Now, I don't know whether that's because it was a better because it's Oloroso. I don't know, maybe it was better Oloroso cask that they'd use, because most of this stuff is just single barrel. But we just never used it. Never used that, term on it. However, going forward, we will be starting to use them. But the Girona Gold you had, Richard, as I say, was the 13-year-old with the sherry cask finish. The 12-year-old is actually superior. And we proved, well, to say we proved it, myself and my wee mate in the shop, Ray, who I'm going to raise this glass to because I do love the wee man. I really, really do. He's my wee buddy. He'd probably annoy you. If he was watching this now, he'd be annoyed for me calling him wee. But anyway, him and I recently discovered in the tasting room there were 2 open Gironas, and one of them was 13 and one of them was 12. So we both took our little samples for scientific purposes, because you have to learn. Like, it's the only way we can learn. And we both tried the 12 and the 13 together in our own time at home, and both of us agreed that the 12 was actually not just superior, but probably far superior. It's just good whiskey. And the thing about it is that if I learned anything over the last 5 years, it's the good whiskey's good whiskey. I did a tasting at work, and this is the thing. This is my main role in the job that I do, is that I'm the person who does the tastings. Mostly. Every now and again, one of the other boys has to step in, but it's usually me that does them. And I enjoy it. I do enjoy it. It's one of those things that I was sort of scared of it at first, but it's over time I've picked up. But I've picked up most of this stuff from listening to you guys. Here's the next 5 years, Jim. Thanks for keeping there. Thanks for your channel. Keep it up. Cheers, buddy. Very, very much appreciate it. So tasting whiskey and talking about it becomes it's my job, really. Most of the time I'm trying to sell the bloody stuff to people, but just actually talking people through it. And I did a tasting for folk about Bushmills whiskey, and on a daily basis I almost feel contractually obliged. I've said this in the past. I almost feel contractually obliged to give Bushmills a kicking, because they make some really, really stupid decisions, in my opinion. Bushmills have made some of the stupidest decisions in whiskey over the years, because they're ours. They're our whiskey, and it's one of those things that's like, stop, just stop. However, when you get to the end of it, when you get underneath all that and go, and I did a tasting for some folks, Bushmills tasting, 4 Bushmills whiskies. I beat Bushmills up and down for about 2 hours and picked faults with what they do. And when we got to the end of it, I asked them what was wrong with the whiskey. And they sort of looked at each other and went, and I went, nothing. And there was nothing wrong with the whiskey. And it was 4 good Bushmills. It wasn't the cheap sort of, fusty stuff. It was top-notch Bushmills, pretty much. And I said there was nothing wrong with the whiskey. When you let the whiskey speak for itself, it's fantastic, actually, in some cases. Stop with the marketing crap. We don't need it. Stop with the right. I'm not gonna carry on doing that, because I do it in work. I'm trying to step away from work here. Paul Gibbs is in. Paul, how are you, my hairy friend? Good to see you. Hope to see you again in November, mate. I see Paul every year at Glasgow Whiskey Festival, and I love catching up with Paul. Anybody who's never met Paul, he's a true gentleman. And yet again, that's the thing. There's nobody in here tonight who isn't a beautiful person. And get me, but you're fantastic people. I know that might sound like as if the drink's in and blah, 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 but no, I mean it. I genuinely mean it. Right. I was going to open another Irish whiskey, but I'll have another wee scotch. We'll mix it up. And I felt like I had to, this felt like it had to be the bottle, because I'm enjoying this an awful lot. As you can see, I haven't really had a lot out of it, but I'm really liking this one. And there's 2 reasons. There's 2 reasons why I'm pouring this one. This is Roy Duff's single cask, the 12-year-old of the recent ballings. There's 2 reasons I'm doing that. One, it's Loch Lomond, and I've been very vocal over those 5 years, about how much I've enjoyed my Loch Lomond. Richard, you said Michael Henry moment, and I felt like as if I had to say something, for the simple fact that in those 5 years, Loch Lomond to me have actually been, I would suggest, probably my standout distillery. Certainly, if I was asked, I would push Loch Lomond for now. Admittedly, if Loch Lomond have their faults, sometimes I would suggest that Michael just takes the ball and runs with it, and just I'm going to do, let's try this, let's try that, and which to me is one of those Bushmills things that's just like, stop. You've got 3 very good 12-year-olds in the market. You've got a bloody good 14, a bloody good 18. The 21 I haven't actually branched out to yet, but I will. I have no doubt that I will. It's what amazes me most about Loch Lomond is the fact that they can produce the most incredible whiskey for the most incredible value. This is the bit that gets me. Loch Lomond have become the distillery that I look at and go, if you can do it, why can't Macallan? Why can't Dalmore? Why can't? And those are the stupid end distilleries. Those are the ones that are charging too much, far too much. But there's many distilleries below Loch Lomond still charging ridiculous prices. And when I look at what they're producing and the quality that we're getting for the price that we get it at, I just go, what the hell's wrong with the rest of the distilleries then? I can't. How can I justify paying what you're asking me when I know what I can get from Loch Lomond? I know that that just amazed me that Roy actually apologized for the prices that he was asking for these. £70 for this ish, £75 for the 14-year-old. Huh? Yeah, I can't get my head around that. I genuinely can't. Anyway, that was my little Michael Henry moment, my little Loch Lomond moment. But it's also, where's Roy's in? Good to see you. Where's Roy? I'll dare say I'll maybe see you in November as well. I also wanted to drop this in just to say a thank you to Roy Duff as well, because if it wasn't for him, I'm sure there's an awful lot of us would never have met. It's that simple. And I can't help but I have to think over the last 5 years, that's something I have to thank him for. And I mean, that's when I say met, I know there's an awful lot of us in the chat here who have never met, but I feel like we have, and I feel like I know you. And I have to apologize to a lot of you because there's a lot of you who chat to me at times and I don't even, I don't see it. I miss it and stuff. And I do feel guilty. But you know what these things are like. But no, it only takes one catalyst sometimes to pull these things together. And Roy is one of them. Oh man, that that 12-year-old. Here, I'll let you into a little secret. I mean, there's nothing to hide about it, but I whenever I opened these two, I opened the 2 bottles almost. I was away on holiday whenever the bottles were delivered, or they were delivered the day I left, or the day before I left. And so I was away. I was away for a week. So pretty much, and I was in. Where is he? I was in. Where the hell was it? Croatia. Dubrovnik. Anybody that's seen the pictures I met up with Sniper King, and whenever I come back, one of the first things. So I didn't have whiskey for a week because it was just so damn hot. I couldn't be bothered. And one of the first things I did whenever I come back was open the 2 bottles, the 12-year-old and the 14-year-old. Open them both. Why not? And that's what they're for. And the 12-year-old, I just instantly just fell in love with it. It's because in the other game, I'm going to say it. It's got a hint of Bushmills about it. 21-year-old. It's got a hint of the Bushmills 21-year-old about it. And there's a big blackcurrant, pardon me, big blackcurrant hit I get off it. This huge blackcurrant hit off it. Greg's Whiskey Guide actually nailed it for me years ago. When I'm saying years ago, I'm going back 4 or 5 years ago, and I'm convinced it was you, Greg, that said it. But this blackcurrant bud, there's this thing about blackcurrant bud, and it was like, yes, that's. But this, it's almost a dirty. It ticks all the boxes. There's almost a dirty waxiness about it as well. But like Bushmills 21, when it gets right into the back of the palate, that's when the biggest rush. That's when this whiskey becomes as incredible as it is. That's amazing. Genuinely amazing. Hellswed saying it was great to meet Cresamere and Isla. I didn't realise you had met him in Isla. I knew he was there, but I didn't know you were there at the same time. An imposing chap. He is. He certainly is a lovely, lovely guy. But I was. I don't know if any of you have ever been to Dubrovnik, but there's the old town in Dubrovnik, and there's gates into the old town, and what's called the Pile Gate is probably the main gates where the main thoroughfare is. So it was I was getting the bus, the public bus, and it gets weirdly. So I don't understand why. Is it because it's where it's at on the sort of hemisphere that it gets dark? It got dark particularly early, and it was. So I was meeting Cresamere at the Pile Gate, but I don't travel terribly well on my own. Anybody who knows me will say, just don't let him go out on his own, because he's not. He'll get lost, or I could get lost in the bathroom. Like I get lost. Oh no, I'll not go into that. Sorry, I will say Will Evans. 1 Minute Whiskey yet again. If anybody's on Instagram, Will's 1 Minute Whiskey, and listen, cheers, my friend. So I was on the bus on my own in Dubrovnik, and God bless them. God bless them. My wife and my 15-year-old son walked me to the bus stop, and stayed there until I drove off in the bus, and waved at me and stuff like that. I got to the Pile Gate in Dubrovnik and hadn't even got off the bus, but they were texting me to see how I was going. How you going? Are you all right? Is everything okay? So I'm standing replying to them at the Pile Gate, and it was dark. This was the thing. It was only 8 o'clock in the evening, but it was pitch black almost. And this is a thoroughfare, as I say, people everywhere. And this thing is basically the way I can describe it. Pretty much blocked out the light and said any light that there was about, you don't have to text, I'm right here. And it was Cresamere. And it was just, it was just funny, because he, as I said, never met the guy, and he has a big unit. That's the best way to describe him. And him and I went for a few beers, and it was lovely. It was fantastic. It was the most relaxing time. And I mean, if you've never been, people, if you get the opportunity, go to Croatia. The people are beautiful, and Cresamere is one of them. He really is. Anyway, I don't know where I was, but getting back to whiskey, that whiskey's fantastic. Loch Lomond. This is something that I've learned in those 5 years, is that you pick your battles. You find the whiskey that suits you. What was Tim's actual? Well, it'll not be hard to find, actually. Tim's actual question: what dram has been your favourite surprise discovery over the last 5 years? I still haven't got a full answer for that. I'll maybe throw a few out there, Tim. I'll maybe throw a few out there. Actually, be the easiest way to do it. And the first one, and it was one that was actually going to have this evening, but it didn't feel special enough. And a surprise dram for me, one of the biggest surprise drams I've had in the last 5 years of reviewing and we'll put it like that because I've probably had this is the easier way to explain it. I've probably had drams that samples or been in distilleries and stuff like that, and I've just went, that's amazing. That's mind blowing. Something's just been so incredible. But that's different. That doesn't, to me, that doesn't hold up, because this for me is the celebration of the Whiskey Novice channel over 5 years. And that's another thing that I want to go back to, mistakes I've made. And the one of them, the first one that I'm going to throw out there is Glengarry 12-year-old. Really surprised me for the price of it. I think it was around the £40 mark, £43 maybe, I think it was, for Glengarry 12-year-old. It's an incredible malt for what it is. I just think Glengarry 12-year-old, everybody should have a go at Glengarry. But at the same time, let's not talk about it. It's that good. It's one of those that don't please tell everybody about it, because it's that good. So there you go. There's the first one. Just why it's fresh in my mind. Mistakes I've made, and probably, oh good grief, I was away off in the chat there. I didn't realize how much the chat had moved. I didn't miss that much. Mistakes I made, and there's a couple at least. The Whiskey Novice. Now this is the thing, and I'm going to very, very much underline, I am trying not to blow my trumpet here, because I'm not. People come into the whiskey shop, and this is me talking as Jim, the beardy guy in the flat cap who works in the whiskey shop now, not the Whiskey Novice. And they say, I want to buy a whiskey, and I'll start. If you've ever walked into the whiskey shop, please forgive me if I don't know you, for one, and two, please forgive me if I'm as dry as hell, because I struggle with tire kickers, people who are just going to walk around for hours and hours and hours and hours and hours, no interest in whiskey, and then leave, but suck all your energy out of you while they're there. So when people do actually get talking to me about whiskey, and they're genuinely interested, I start talking to them about whiskey. And quite a few times in the last couple of years, people have said something. It's generally my little colleague Ray, who works with me. I keep saying little, I shouldn't say that. My colleague Ray will go, Jim's a whiskey chipper. He doesn't talk about it, because I try to keep the two things separate. Whiskey Novice and Jim, who works in the whiskey shop, two different things. That's the way I try to keep it. But sometimes conversations kick up, and and what do you call your channel? You go, the Whiskey Novice, and I go, well, you're hardly a novice, are you? So here's one of the things that I'm convinced probably. There's a couple of people that I would like, who aren't actually, I don't think, maybe they're watching, but I haven't seen their names in the live stream. There's a couple of people whose names keep coming up. I always appreciate, well, Frank, I'm not discounting you, Frank, Petehead, but but we all know your wealth of knowledge where whiskey's concerned. So you're one of the first. You generally every week you're the first person to comment on my reviews. But there's always a couple of guys who are in there. Alan Whittle, David Owens is also another one. And I've always appreciated the fact that there's this big boost. Come on, let's push this channel. I've sort of been convinced that calling myself the Whiskey Novice probably wasn't a good idea at the start. And as I say, I'm definitely not trying to blow my trumpet here by any means, but it was never going to do a channel any good. Because if I was starting a whiskey journey and I wanted to seek the knowledge of somebody else. I don't think I would seek the knowledge of somebody called the whiskey novice. But any of us who are in here know who are doing this and whatever. Once you're tied to it, you're tied to it. In that, I mean, 5 years down the line, I had other ideas during the time where you sort of go, maybe whenever the beard was a bit longer and all that, the whiskey wizard, maybe something a bit different. But once you've set your brand as such, that's it. You're stuck with it. I was always quite happy with the whiskey novice name, and I'm quite happy to keep that going. And I'll always use that thing and say that I'm quite happy to do it and say, look, while I've always got something to learn, I'm quite happy to call myself the whiskey novice, and so I am. There, I wanted to put that in there. I just want to put that in there. And the thing about it, as Greg says, then change it maybe to the whiskey new vice. And this is the other thing, to change anything nowadays. I don't know, I knew you were just getting at me, Greg, but for me to say, right, I would literally have to draw a line under the whiskey novice and walk away from it and start again. And what's the point in that? I mean, almost 250 reviews, they would just be somebody else then, so look, the whiskey novice it is, and the whiskey novice I'm sticking to. I'm quite happy with that. And you know me as the whiskey novice, and I know you as so Tim. I just noticed Tim Hoy's just coming out of the corner of my eye, the Bushmills botherer. I like that. Oh man, that's fantastic. That is fantastic. That's that Loch Lomond. I do. Tim, once again, the other bottles that surprised, well, didn't really surprise me. I was expecting good stuff, but that's fantastic. Still, it's always in the back of my mind now. There's bound to be bottles that have surprised me, because, and here's part of the issue. I listen to you guys. This is always the thing. This is why we don't get surprised, because of the whiskey community that we have, we listen to each other. So, pardon me. So we're not, when I look on Facebook, for example, and I'm scanning up through Facebook, and Hellswed has got a picture of a bottle on, and Peter Lee's got a picture of the same bottle on, and let me see, Donner Pass Tim, and this one, and that one, and they've all got the same picture of that whiskey on, and they're all saying the same thing. I already know it's fantastic. I don't have to. It's very. It's a matter of fact. It's probably more the case where I actually look back every now and again and go, I'm not getting it. Where it's more where a bottle keeps showing up, and you go, everybody says this is fantastic, and I'm just not getting it. But I sort of think that that's a good thing too, because if we all like the same whiskey, then there would only be one whiskey. It's that simple. It's so we stick to what we enjoy. And surprises. I'm gonna. That was another one. There's Springbank in general. I tend to be disappointed by more often than surprised by, and the reason for that is that we tend to, and I'm guilty of it, the same as an awful lot of people, tend to put Springbank on a pedestal. And it's not just Springbank, Glengyle are capable of this as well. And we almost expect everything to be amazing. And when it's all right, it's just all right. And I've said this in the past, that when I review a Springbank or Glengyle product, I can't help but compare eggs for eggs. So I'm comparing them to other Springbank Glengyle products. I'm not comparing them to the rest of Scotch whisky. Is that the right way to approach it? Is it the wrong way to approach it? I can't help it. It's that simple. It's just something that's inbred in me. It just says, well, if I, this Springbank 12-year-old, it's just all right. That's me going, it's just all right compared to the last one or the one before that. And I mean, let me tell you, I haven't had that many Springbanks because they're hard enough to get. Eric Waite's saying Springbank has the Ralphie effect. It's great, but over height. It can be. Oh, man, every time that hits the back of the palate, it's just so fruity, but not sweet. This is the thing, and this is something that I'm putting out to you. Here's something that I say on a regular basis, and this is me using you guys that are in the chat or who's watching this on replay. So I'm using you as a bit of a soundboard here. I get asked this: what's the difference between Scotch whiskey and Irish whiskey? Right, there are obvious differences. Nobody in Scotland makes pot still whiskey. Inchderny put one down. I know they did. The Prinlaws, call it. It'll not be. You're looking at a couple of years yet before it'll be. I don't think it'll be a great pot still. The whole we can add what the hell? I've forgotten the bloody word. Relaxing woodshop. Davidson, pot still is mainly Irish, yes, but the pot still, what I'm talking about, the pot still with the raw barley, the unmalted barley in it, because we can add enzymes in Ireland that the Scots can. So there's an obvious difference there. But malt to malt, grain to grain, and I tell people genuinely that I'll send the E, yes, the E for excellence, of course. That there's no big difference between malt whiskey's malt whiskey, grain whiskey's grain whiskey. It doesn't matter where you're making it. Yes, there's certain things, that they have to hit. Yes, the Irish can use any wood they wish. The Scots can only use oak. Things like that. That we have to. There's certain rules that the associations will stick to. But is there anybody out there that I was going somewhere with this? I can't remember where it was, but there was definitely something that I had pointed at that I just. This is what the other thing I love about the people that are in here and the community that we're part of, that I think we are part of. And it was sort of around where I was going with the Irish versus Scots there, that we are open-minded. There are an awful lot of whiskey communities on social media dedicated to Irish whiskey. There aren't that many dedicated to Scotch whiskey. As a matter of fact, I can't think of one. Maybe there are, but it's because those who drink Scotch whiskey are more open-minded, and they will drink English whiskey, Japanese whiskey, American whiskey, Irish whiskey, Welsh whiskey, African whiskey, fucking everybody's whiskey, because we're a more open-minded breed about the whole thing. And yet again, I think it's made for a greater community. It's made for a better community here that will try whiskey from anywhere. I don't know how genuinely do know. I was going somewhere with it there, but I can't remember where it was. Age and whiskey, people. Age and whiskey. I probably should have left a drop of that in the glass. Whiskey promiscuous and proud, Helen. Thank you. I'm glad. Because that's exactly, I preach whiskey promiscuity. Eric says he's about 90% Scotch whiskey. So there you go. And the other 10% of you, being that you live in America, Eric, is probably Irish, because that's just the way it works. I'm only joking, mate. I'm genuinely only joking, but that's just what I hear every day. That was just water, by the way. I am still trying to keep the water flow going. Believe it or not, I've got an appointment with a solicitor tomorrow about something, so I need to keep the flow going. I'm going to have another whiskey, and it's going to be an Irish one. And as a matter of fact, I'll tell you what else I'm going to do. Even I just noticed there he's comment the 10% is fudge. I'm going to mute 2 seconds. Because it wasn't a pop and pour, it was a crack and sack or something. I was going to open myself another wee Guinness because it's still early, people. It's still early. I hadn't intended, you know me, I don't like to run on too long. I haven't done a live stream in ages, and it's my 5th birthday, so I'm genuinely enjoying myself. I'm going to open another bottle. It's another first pat and pour. Anybody who wonders what the pat and pour thing is, you really genuinely should check out Mr. Whiskey NI, Nigel, a Highland, but man knows his whiskey on Instagram. If you know the Highlands, you'll find it. You'll find them on there. But yeah, another first pot and pour, and this one, I tried to sneak it in there. A distillery that this is a distillery yet again that I'm going to say to Tim Hoekstra. More a distillery that have surprised me because they continue to keep putting out whiskey that surprises me. Redeeming Estate Distillery Shortcross whiskey. Now I keep talking about them as just Shortcross, but it's technically, pardon me, it's the Guinness. It is Redeeming Estate Distillery, and this one was a bottle that they released fairly recently for Belfast Whiskey Week. Where is it? There it is. Fairly limited. I can't remember. So this is bottle number 62 of, I can't remember. It's not that many. Bottle of 46%. And what surprised me about this is, and I'm going to break the, there we go. I'm going to break the, what am I going to break? I'm going to break the sort of peated rule a bit, that this is not the last whiskey I'll have tonight. Excuse. There we go. This is not the last whiskey. Eric Waite says he's got 2 bottles of peated Shortcross that he hasn't opened yet. It's probably bottles like this too that they're there we go. That's closer. But I got a glug. Hold on. Oh, baby. They would be a fairly limited release from Shortcross because nearly everything that they're releasing, I've gone blurry again, nearly everything they release is fairly limited. But they're making, so David, I'm not here to do the big promotion. However, David and Fiona Boyd Armstrong, to me, are producing. They're doing it right. They waited their time. Oh, I can smell that. Oh, it's lovely. They waited their time. They didn't source for any of this. This is their own stuff. Look at the color of that. Isn't that a class color? That's not even 5 years old. Peated malt. And I don't think there's anything massively special about this bottle. So it was bottled, and I've been waiting. I've actually been sitting. I've genuinely been sitting waiting on this occasion to open this because I was looking forward to it. I'm going to read you so matured solely in a 36th month air seasoned virgin Quercus Alba American oak, casks for 4.5 years before being carefully selected by blah blah blah. So but there's yet again Loch Lomond. Now this bottle here, 55 quid, right? It's young. Okay, get that. They're a small distillery. I'll pay 55 quid for that all day long. And it's back to this thing. That's them. That's it. That's what you get. Look at the market, and it's. I'm not going to say it's crap because I still find it quite eye catching, but they haven't wasted money on marketing. The money's in the whiskey. That's the way I look at that. It's like Springbank. They're literally our little Springbank, in my opinion. I effing love what they're doing at Shortcross. I genuinely do, and I wish them all the best. They're once again, Tim Orchestra. I did say a minute ago they've been a surprise to me. Do you know, I've never even been down to the distillery. I could drive there in half an hour probably, and just that's a good peated malt. Ooh. Mm. Mm. And the thing about it is, it's not even that I rate as their best. They do a Ryan malt, and the Ryan malt cask strength is phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. It's Whiskey Liberation Front. Lee J says, how many Highlands are going this year? Do you know, a lot of the other guys they've all been to the distillery. I know David quite well, who owns the distillery, well, is the distiller, and love the guy. I think he's fantastic, and I really keep meaning to go and see the distillery and keep meaning to make time, but I keep saying that about a lot of these new distilleries in Ireland that have a lot of time for. I just haven't been to actually see them. That's one of the best peated malts I've had in Ireland. Is it mind blowing? Not necessarily. Is it on a par with a lot of the good Scottish single malt, peated single malts, or good Scottish peated whiskies? Yeah, yes, it is, and that's why it stands out to me. That's another one I get, and I've voiced this before. I like this. This is people coming into the shop. I like Lagavulin. I like Ardbeg. I like Lefroy. What should I buy here in Ireland? And we're going, just buy Lagavulin, Ardbeg, and Lefroy. Don't come to Ireland expecting to find something that's going to stand up to that. And the thing about it is that I generally end up saying, I like, when I hear I like Lagavulin, I like Lefroy, I like Ardbeg, I'm going, well, then you should try Kilhoman, try Lechic, try Benromic, try, you're missing out on some of the better peated, by sticking to the classics. So it's mm, mm, that's even better than I remember it. So I had tried a couple of tried samples of that, but I hadn't actually opened the bottle. That's fantastic. That's a really, really good peanut malt. Pleased with that. Pleased with that. Funnily enough, the letdown tonight is the Macallan. But and as I said earlier on, if you wish to know my full views on that Macallan, hang around. The review will come soon enough. Anybody who's been counting the amount of 12-year-old Scottish single malts have reviewed of late will know that we're drawing very close to the end of that series. And it's funny because I didn't. Tony Nelson said, congrats on the 5. We're going. I look forward to seeing you again in Glasgow. Tony, of course, I'll be there, buddy. Stealing your taxi. That's the thing. You do a thing once, and it's just stuck with you. Cheers, Tony. Appreciate that, my friend. What was I saying? What was I saying before Tony just disrupted me? Oh, damn it, I was going to say something there. Here's a wee tidbit for you while I'm trying to remember what I was talking about. Nobody in and Alan's away. See you at Glasgow Whiskey Festival. Anyway, it says I like listening to Motorhead, whatever. None of the so there's a few maltings in Ireland, but to my knowledge, none of them peat dry malt. Tony Nelson was saying, yes, I will do a full review on Macallan. Yes, that's what I'm saying, Tony. Thank you. It wasn't, I was racist. Over the last 5 years, so that's almost 250 reviews. Almost. It should have been more than 250 reviews, obviously, but some weeks slipped. I haven't. Or the 12-year-old. Sorry, my memory's straying all over the places now because I'm remembering things that I wanted to say and didn't. The 12-year-old, the Baker's Dozen, 13, 12-year-old Scottish single malts. Can't believe how many of them I managed to squeeze out. That'll be me pretty much up to 4 seasons of that by 1352, I believe. And so there's out of 5 years, there's a full year spent on 12-year-old Scottish single malts. It's bonkers. And I imagine there's another series out there somewhere. I'll get there eventually. Whiskey whereabouts late to the live stream, but I'm happy to see you're still celebrating. Congrats on the 5 years. Cheers. Appreciate that. There was something else I was going to say. Oh, yes. I was sort of hoping that somebody would have asked, but they didn't. Because it's a good time to air it. It's a good time to get it out there about the because of Jimmy Legg, I know, has been systematically working his way through my reviews, watching them over the last, because this is the thing. I am guilty of, I watch very few reviews now. I pick up on the ones that I wanted to know about that whiskey. So, not every whiskey will I watch a review on before I buy the bottle. As I said, very few of them now, simply because I'm just watching what you guys are saying about it on social media. And if you're all raving about it, I'll buy it anyway. It used to be, there was a time whenever I would have watched a review before I would have bought a bottle. So what I was leading up to there was the intro thing. So Jimmy Legg is systematically working his way through my reviews, and at some point he's going to realize that I stopped doing intros. So I thought this was a good time to air it, Jimmy, before you get there. So the funny intro thing, and I say funny because I mean some of them weren't that funny, but and I did get asked that quite a bit at the time. So we're still looking back over the 5 years. Why did you stop doing the intros? Quite simply, I ran out of ideas. It wasn't because I didn't enjoy doing them. As a matter of fact, I really enjoyed doing intros and doing something, that was my shtick for a while. That it was, oh, you remember the way he did the funny intros and all that there? I just ran out of ideas. And I honestly find myself at nights waking or lying in bed. That was the thing at that time. It was a sort of rollover. Oh, I could do this, I could do that, I could do that. Oh, and every time it was easy. They were just popping up, and then they stopped. It dried up very quick. Probably around the times I stopped smoking blow. It's weird how they all tied up. No, I'm only joking about that. So no, it was just very difficult to keep coming up with ideas. And that was when I was saying earlier on about mistakes I made over the last 5 years. And that was, to me, one of the mistakes I made. It wasn't starting to put the intros in. I enjoyed doing it. And I know people were getting joy out of it. It was the fact that I probably could have spread that out over 5 years if I had decided to do them once in a while rather than packing them all in every week and doing intros to my videos every week. So yeah, maybe you'll get more ideas later on. Greg says maybe, you wouldn't know. But it's been a long time since I've had the feeling to make an intro to a video. Once again, remembering that probably COVID had an awful lot to do with it, that we had nothing else to do. We had nothing else on our mind. We were just all freewheeling at the time, and well, say all of us, we weren't all. Peter Box, good to see you, my friend. Late to the show, Jim. I've greatly cut back on watching reviews, but I always look forward to the Sunday mornings. Peter, patron of mine for a long time. Thank you, my friend. And always appreciate it. Always. You know, that's the thing. Sunday, so anybody who's not, and I'm not, this isn't me saying become a patron. Sunday mornings, I release my videos each week to the patrons, and then Wednesday morning, traditionally 10 o'clock every morning or every Wednesday morning to everybody else. So Peter, thank you. And I mean, that's the thing. I know what it's like for everybody else. I used to watch, as I said earlier on in this live stream, used to watch everybody's videos religiously. Didn't matter whether it was a whiskey I was ever going to drink or not. And now, like most other people, I don't. I just don't. Weirdly, I found myself almost going for full circle, where I'm back to watching Ralphie again, and there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but it's weird how we've sort of strayed a little. We've had to. Our lives just started to catch up with us again. Jobs took over. Scott's test dummies were a great example of that. Scott, wasn't it? It was Scott, wasn't it? That got the job with SMWS US, and pretty much at that time, the Scott's test dummies stopped. It was weird how they just disappeared. Whiskey Liberation Front, Lee J, great live stream, Jim. Here's to the next 5 years. Good night and stay safe. Lee J, I know you always have an early morning, mate. Thank you, my friend. Lee J, always good to Lee J and I were having a chat the other night. Yes, the Whiskey Vault were greatly improved since Daniel Whittington went solo. I missed a lot. Well, Daniel was always the whiskey guy, was the way that I always looked at it, and Rex was just the comedy heel. So, you know, it was the way I looked at it. So it was bizarre. Yeah, I know that they had their troubles there, and you know, so I sort of stayed out of that. I'm sure we were all hanging around. Most of us who are in the chat here at some point, I know maybe some of us not, but we all loved what they were doing with the shenanigans, etc., etc. These things come, these things go. I remember you, Eric, doing a couple of videos with them at least, and it was good. That was the thing. It was actually good. That this is the thing that we were able to put. Okay, we knew that. This is one that I'm just using as an example, going back a few years, that Eric was the Eric Whiskey Studies, or at the time you weren't giving yourself that name, but you had your own channel, you were doing your own thing. But I remember watching you chatting to the guys in a video and just going, wow, that Eric is there with the guys. It's like, this is incredible. You know, it made the word weirdly, even though you're in the US, even though you were in the state of Texas with them, obviously, it just made the world seem that bit smaller. Certainly for me. And it was the same thing happened if Ralphie showed up at Roy's house for something, or Roddy showed up. Simple things like that make the world seem that bit smaller. Certainly makes our world seem that bit smaller. I haven't watched. Tim's saying Daniel's current solo content for the Whiskey Vault is indeed great. I haven't watched the whole lot of it, but I remember watching one of his videos there fairly recently, a review, and I'm thinking the same. It means so much more. The guy knows his whiskey. There's no two ways about that. It's not that Rex, as I say, Rex was always just the stooge. He was, in my opinion, he was always just the comedy guy, whereas Daniel actually knew what he was talking about. And this is, I mean, there's channels that I haven't. I'm sure we're all guilty of this as well. There's channels that I have never grown to, and I've actually looked at and went, I don't get this. Why is everybody? And I mean, I don't know, and I'm sure we're not all alone there. Big Ed says Big Ed, another new name. Pardon me, much better since Daniel went solo. So yeah, we can't. It's channels, whiskey channels, are like whiskey itself. We can't all love the same thing. We all have our own thing. Look, I've went on for 2 hours, and I've saved my best whiskey. Well, I've saved a whiskey for last. This is the glass that I cleaned out, and this was my celebration for the 5 years. This is my 5-year celebration whiskey that I'm sliding very casually on the screen, trying not to reveal it. And anybody who knows my views here, or when I say knows my views, knows what you can see behind me, will already have seen there's a bottle missing. It's this Springbank 18-year-old, but it's not just this bottle. This bottle was gifted to me a couple of years back, and this is what it means. And there's been a few bottles tonight that have been gifted to me, and I just cannot believe the generosity of the whiskey community when things get gifted to you. Now, I will try and zoom in on this, and I'll probably go blurry, but look at the bottle size. So it's a 750, which means it didn't come from here. And I'm getting, I'm actually getting a bit teary here almost, because this was a gift a couple of years back from a guy, and I use the term, if I say gentleman doesn't sum it up. It's open now. There you go. Big Ed, here's to many more years, I imagine. Cheers, Ed. Listen, another, with I raise a glass to you, I'll raise a Guinness to you. Ed, thank you, sir. Many, many thanks. Springbank 18. But the pops are a bit poor. The pops are a bit poor. First pop and pour, and it's a. It was a good glug butt, and that's a good measure. I'm pouring myself. This was gifted to me by Drew Lane. To use the term gentleman does not do him justice. Oh man. Oh, always like the wee woof from the hands of what was around the neck. But no, as I say, there's just the generosity. And this was one of the things going back 5 years ago that I noticed about the whiskey community. It was the generosity. The generosity is, it knows no bounds. It's just we're I don't know whether some of us do, some of us don't. But I remember, oh, that's bright. I remember it being one of the first things that I noticed, and it was Stuart. Any of us who know him, Stuart Whiskey Wims, who, and I've told this story many times, sent me a sample of the King Alexander III, the Dalmore, and it was the first. It was the first sample anybody had ever sent me. Sean Macallan, hi there, Jim. Sean, cheers. It was the first sample anybody had said, and I didn't get this. I was fairly new to the whiskey community, and Stuart had sent me this sample of Dalmore King Alexander III, and I remember at the time Googling, as we do. Do you remember Googling? There'll be a time in our lives, people, whenever we look back and go, "Do you remember Googling?" Anyway, I remember Googling King Alexander III and going, "That's £170 a bottle," and that guy, who I don't know, has sent me a sample of it. And I poured it, and I went, "That's crap." Whiskey Graham, congrats on the 5 years. Graham, I was talking about you earlier on. I was giving your wee channel a bit of a boost. Oh, Desi Fleeland's in. Desi and a dram. Well, I say a dram, but a boost to the channel. Desi, thank you. Desi, I hope to see you in November again. Congrats on the 5 years. Here's at least 5 more. I hope so. I hope to see you in November. Desi and I are always, certainly the last 3 years, I think, always in Glasgow, and we always sort of smile at each other and we always say hello. But I don't know what it is. We're just sort of that sort of other end of the room, most cases, you know. But Bessie, it's great to see you. Thank you. What was I saying? What the hell's wrong with my memory tonight? See, some people coming in. People keep coming in and interrupting me. Yes, Stuart Dalmore. That's what it was. And it was. I remember thinking it was crap. The King Alexander III, and he had reviewed it. It was his very first review, and he said that it was amazing. It was fantastic. And I contacted Stuart about that whiskey and said, I'm sorry, I don't get it. I just don't see where you think this is fantastic. But thank you so much for the sample. But it's weird because." And he came back and he says, "Do you know, I thought it was crap as well." But I thought because it paid so much money for it, I better say it was good. And then he dropped, he pulled the review, and I think that was his first review. And but this is something that we all learn, that because it's expensive doesn't mean it's good. We all have to learn. And I have a lot of time for Stuart. He knows his whiskey. Oh, Springbank 18-year-old. In case you're wondering. Now, this is very light. So this has to be ex-bourbon. Just imagine it's just ex-bourbon. I can't find anybody. I will look into it. I will look into it. Dollar past Tim's off 10. Thank you, my friend. Thanks for being in. Oh, that's good. Sorry. Oh. Sorry, anybody's just sort of tuning in right now and just wondering what the hell this is. Just Ben's taking it one further with a 25-year-old Springbank. Do you know one of my happiest moments in the last 5 years? And yet again, Tim Hoyks asked this earlier on. It wasn't necessarily a surprise, or was it? I suppose. I was with my brother-in-law who lives in Edinburgh, and I haven't been to Edinburgh since that time. We were in a little bar called the Jolly Judge, and he doesn't drink a lot of whiskey. He's more of a gin man, to be honest with you. And it was we had a few, but he was quite happy to just take whatever I ordered him. And later on in the evening, I remember ordering a Springbank 21 from behind the bar. Now, I believe it was around the £35 a dram mark at that time, remembering it was probably, a Scottish dram too, 25 ml. But I remember sitting at the table with him and just, I literally, I remember the hair on my body standing up when I sipped that for the first time. And I wasn't as into the whiskey as I am now. I certainly wasn't into it as much as I am now. The hair stood up in my body, my eyes rolled back in my head, and I just when whiskey's good, when it's that good, and I know we said it earlier on about Springbank being a bit overhyped, and it can be when you can't get it, when you struggle to get it, but shit, that's good. Yet again, it's that waxiness about it and full on Springbank funk. Drew Lane, my friend, this is for you, but it's for all of you. This is the dram for all of you. This is the one that's saying thank you so much for sticking with me and enjoying the last 5 years with me. So it's so complete. It's a term that I've sort of started to use. It's a fantastic nose. It's a fantastic palate. But more so, it's a fantastic finish. And that's what's wrong with so many whiskies. They've got two of the three, but one of them just slides and lets it down. I've seen a few bits have come up in the chat. Let me see. And this is the thing I'm reading. Nobody knows what I'm laughing at, but I having a wee one with that spring. I was having a wee one there. I was away on one. We bring me into this. What's going on? So you taste more again. Experience. There's a good question, Eric. Wait, as you taste more and gain more experience, because and the thing is, coming from you, Eric, that's an interesting question. Coming from anybody, it'd be an interesting question, but knowing what you know, Eric, it's a more interesting question. Do you find it more difficult to have wow moments? I don't know is the simple answer, because probably, the sad thing is that we probably do, the more we review whiskey, the longer we do it, we probably do expect more. As in our palates expect more. I still tell everybody, if they can, and I've even started to do it in tastings during in my job in the whiskey shop, taste blind, because your palate doesn't lie to you. So I had high expectations of this. It fulfilled. However, if I could take that expectation out of the equation, would it still fulfill? You know, so it's. I did a tasting for 3 guys fairly recently who paid quite a bit of money for a tasting, and the first I was doing a tasting on the 4 styles of Irish whiskey: blend, single grain, single malt, single pot, still, which is you know, as I say, we've got styles that the Scots don't technically. And the first whiskey we had was a blend, and because they were paying quite a bit of money, that blend was the Middleton Very Rare, and it doesn't matter what year it was, but it was Middleton Very Rare. So you're talking at least around the £200 a bottle mark. Well, if you tell somebody there's £200 a bottle, they go, "Oh, it's fantastic. Oh, it's generally, oh, it's fantastic whiskey." I covered all the bottles up, so they didn't know what they were drinking. Middleton Very Rare. What do you think, boys? What do you actually think of it? It's all right, was pretty much the attitude. Uncover it and go, it's £200 a bottle, and they go, "Oh, and you sort of think, well, what changed your mind there? Just because of the price? Well, actually, that should change your mind more so for me, where you should go, I'm highly surprised at how average it is, basically, for the price of it. And it certainly opens my mind where I go, nah, I wouldn't buy that sort of stuff, because I know what it tastes like. It's overhyped. It's Macallan. Where was it? So no, that's a bloody good question. No, Eric, it's weird. It sort of ties in with Tim Hoekstra's question a little, in that the likes of that Glengarry I was talking about earlier on, where I was sort of very surprised how good it was. So there was a wow factor about it. And yes, every now and again, another one. Tim, here's another good one for you. Armoric 10-year-old from Brittany and France. I was highly surprised how good that was. I wasn't expecting. This was in a blind thing that I did with Roy, Six Nations, and it was incredible. And I bought a bottle. So a wow whiskey to me makes me buy it. I sought out, but couldn't afford, or not that I couldn't afford, but just didn't want to spend the money at the end of the day on Elijah Craig, small batches and stuff like that there. So basically what pushes me or what drives me is whenever it's ridiculously good and somebody tells me that it's, anyway, I hope someday you'll try maybe a whiskey Fairlimber, the old 21-year-old. Do you know there was a ball? So that's Greg saying about that. I have a ball here, which is another one that I knew on paper was good. I have a Cadenhead Springbank here from early 1990s, I think it is, which is phenomenal, which was pretty much gifted to me. And then anyway, fantastic. Some Bushmills have really surprised me about how good they are. So I'm just checking back through the chat here. Big Port, Neil saying, those moments happen more when we were all together tasting for me. And he's right. He's right. The Roy Duff's blind tasting in the casino the day after Glasgow Whiskey Festival, the last 2 years, 2 years ago, Nika Yoichi was voted first by the majority. Last year, It was the Indri Trini. Who among us would be buying? How would we ever, how would we ever get to the point where we would all be agreeing that such whiskies are worth our money? Really? And I'm not being cheeky whenever I say that, but it just shows you, if you get a game blind, close that off. The Ginger Genius Springbank 25, one of my all-time favorite wow moments today, unforgettable. But there you go. I've actually never had Springbank 25. Greg saying Armic 10's nice, very space, and it is space Eddie. Although I found a bit of that Campbelltown thing going on as well in it. Peter Lees, I need to go. Congrats on 5 years. Cheers, buddy. Ben really doesn't like the Indri Trini. Do you know, I bought a bottle of it, and there's Richard and you saying really like the Indri Trini, lovely juice. I bought a bottle of it, I reviewed it, and I'm still, I reviewed it. I said nice things about it, and I'm not sure. Yep, Andy Cross nailed it. Sorry, I'm so glad, Andy, you come in and said it. Team Novices. Andy was part of my team on the blind challenge last year and nailed every one of them, got every one of them right, and probably pulled our points well up. Thank you, Andy. Oh, that's water. Sometimes we need water. Scott Matheson. Scott, I should know, but where are you located? For the simple fact that you're on the Irish and you're nailing the Irish stuff. He's having some old cumbered around off the night. Again, you turn me on to this, and it's great trying to finish off the night. So, Scott, I take it you're close. You either live in Ireland or you're certainly close here, because it's very difficult to get your hands on old cumber otherwise. I really would. I really want to stretch this Springbank out. And I will stretch this Springbank out. If it's some, do you know the thing about it is, sorry, I faded away there. I've had some incredible drams tonight. I really have. I didn't expect this to go on for so long. I try to wrap up in an hour usually. There's almost getting on 2.5 hours of me blethering on about what I've done with my last 5 years. Here's what I did in my summer holidays. Woo! Scott is in Belfast in Scotland originally. Scott, if we met and I haven't known you, I'm sure we'll probably have. If we have, I'm sorry. Introduce yourself the next time and tell me who you are, because my memory's shot. It's not necessarily the whiskey thing, but it's more so working in the whiskey shop, because I meet so many people now, and when people, especially whenever people come in and they go, I'm a barfly. As soon as they go, I'm a barfly, bang, that's it, right? Well, come on, you and I'll have a wee conversation in the background, and the shop just disappears for a moment. But because I meet so many people now and they introduce themselves, and I feel a bit guilty that I've probably let you slide. Sorry, buddy. I'm sure we're bound to have met. Anyway, I'll run one more question. Well, I'll give you one more question, people. Have you had many American single malt whiskies? I'm doing the EWA course on it now, Eric. I've had a couple. I did have Bud Jenkins. Oh, Scott. Well, there you are, Scott. I'm glad actually he's saying that it's my wee mate that's where it's Ray. Well, listen, the next time you're in, Scott, please introduce yourself. Yeah, single malts. I've had, is it West Coast? West something West. And I'm sure I've had 2 or 3, Eric, and at the end of the day, it's single malt, isn't it? It's one of those things that I do repeat it. Doesn't matter where you make malt whiskey. Technically, okay, in America, it's the climate, Westland. That's the one. Yeah, it was Westland. Wasn't Balcones. If I had Balcones, I don't know whether I've had any Balcones. I like the Balcones bourbon. I like the Balcones rye. Don't know whether I've had their single malt. They do a peated malt as well, don't they? I just there's enough. It's actually westward. Greg's Whiskey Guide. It wasn't Westland. It's westward. I've had it, and it was Bud Jenkins sent me a bottle of it. It's like this here. I'm struggling to keep up with the amount of bloody whiskey that's being released in the country that I live in, let alone keeping up with other people's countries. So this is my issue. Whiskey Graham, was saying Westland, and it's not Westland. Graham, it was westward. Graham spends an awful lot of time in America, and knows his bourbons, and as I said earlier on, check out, if you're on Instagram, check out Graham and Nigel and Derek's. Derek? Sorry, Richard. Derek. Richard Weber's live streams. Desi Fleland saying, isn't Mirador their single malt? Is this McCarthy's that Richard News on to? I don't know. I've sort of lost track of. Ginger Genius, congratulations, Jim, on your 5 years. Keep up the great work. Liking it. Well, cheers. Appreciate it, Ginger Genius. Thank you. People think we've got the best out of tonight. I really do. I've thoroughly enjoyed it. Thoroughly enjoyed the whiskies. I'm so glad I'm so glad I picked out the bottles I did. I've weirdly, that ball, there was one bottle that I talked about earlier on, the Cadenhead Springbank from the early 90s, and I can't remember what I've done with it. I can't find it. I briefly looked through my cabinets earlier on and couldn't find it, but anyway. Whiskey Works, Graham. Right, folks, I'm off back on the early starts again. Congratulations again. Cheers, Graham. Appreciate it, mate. I'll speak to you soon. Graham, one of the Highlands. No, I've really enjoyed that, folks. It's good. As a matter of fact, it's, what's the word I'm looking for, where it's to do a live stream, to voice these things and do it, but just do it once in a blue moon like that is better for me. I enjoy that more. Doing it every month, it's not that it wears on you, but it's just nice to come in, because when I come in every now and again, then when I see you drop it out, that's better, because you're getting fed up with me. Hell's Bed, they're Hell and Andy calling it a night as well, and look, thank you, folks. I don't see enough of you, unfortunately. I know an awful lot of people are going to be meeting up in Glasgow at the end of September again, and I'm not going to do it this time, unfortunately. But well, a couple of things, if we can change. One, we'll get Jimmy and Angie to correlate their times to Glasgow Whiskey Festival, and the other is I'll get my ass to Limburg. This is the thing that I need to do. Need to get my arse over to the Limburg Festival. I keep hearing so many good things, and the doc, honestly, when I seen the doc in Glasgow last September, I almost felt like hiding from him, because Doc, if you're still listening to this, or if you ever see it again, there's so many of you out there in Europe. Greg, cheers, my friend. Congrats again, and thank you. Greg, one of the guys, Greg's Whiskey Guide there in Paris, has been around for so long. Deserves your support, please. People, give him your support. Knows his whiskey, knows his music. at some point we will all meet. I would love to think that at some point we will all meet in one place. I really would. I'm a bit teary. It's weird. I don't know whether it's the Springbank. I don't think it's the Springbank. I think it's the fact that I'm just here doing this with you guys. Can't believe I'm still doing it after 5 years. But there you go. There you go. Obviously I decided to stick at it. I did it because I love it. I enjoy doing it. And after 2 hours and 30 minutes, that's enough, I think. So I'll just say, listen, thank you, and I'll see you off. First of all, with the drop of the black stuff, because I don't necessarily claim to be Irish. I don't know, some of you in the world find that a bit weird, but at the same time, I am from the island of Ireland, in the island of Ireland. So for those Irish around the world, this is for you. For the whiskey community who have supported me and shown me through the last 5 years and stuck with me, and I cannot thank you enough. This Springbank 18, easily the best whiskey I've sipped tonight, although there have been some good ones. Thank you. Here's to your good health. Look after yourselves. Cheers.